Hello, welcome to Schumacher Racing, and we're talking to Cecil Schumacher today about the ProCat, the original ProCat and the new ProCat Classic re-release from Schumacher Racing. Cecil, tell us about the ProCat. What do you remember about designing the ProCat and making the first cars?
Yeah, it takes you back to those days. We would frequently work overnight, all through the night, because we'd got some crazy new idea about what we ought to put in the cars and go testing with. But hey, yes, it was a worthy successor to the good old Cat.
The car was very successfully raced. In 1989 it was introduced, and the first big event was the Worlds in Australia. Do you remember that event?
Yes, a wonderful time. We didn't quite get the results we'd hoped for, but we didn't do badly.
The following year, in 1990, Phil Davies won the European Championships.
Yes.
With the ProCat, and it was extremely successful. Certainly in Europe, it won lots of big races in many countries. So this is the original car from 1989, and the ProCat Classic is a very authentic replica using most of the original tooling and just one or two small changes to update it, mostly for lipo fitting, but pretty much everything else is authentic original ProCat, and it still works. I mean,
yeah.
I've recently done a couple of races against modern buggies with it, and it still performs very well.
Good.
So the belt drive transmission was quite innovative at the time as well, because most other cars of this era were shaft drive or chain drive.
Yeah, I still stand by it. We were limited with our equipment at the time. We didn't have a great range of equipment. We did have good moulding facilities with the jolly old Manu mould, and the manufacturer of tooling was a limiting factor on whatever we made. We had to make tools, and the time scale to make a new tool was considerable. So anything new had got to be compressed into a fairly short time scale, and you had to try and get the tooling done early, or started early on. The manufacture of these was done on our Pantacut routing machine, which made all the flat part, the fiberglass parts, and these aluminium parts.
Yeah, I think quite a high proportion of the car was made in-house, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we platforming for the body shells.
We did almost everything. Yeah,
and
the challenge.
And it still is mostly made in-house.
Yeah. An amusing thing here is the cruciform, which is the basis of the universal joint on all the wheel drives, it really is a cruciform, and the plastic, the nylon, has got to be sufficiently flexible to be able to be forced over the cruciform and click into place, and then be perfectly okay for further use. It was quite a trick. You had to have fairly strong fingers, but when my daughters, one in particular, could do all this, and when chaps complained about they were too hard to put together, I had to remind them that my 10-year-old daughter was doing this and thought it was quite easy, Dad. I like the roll bars. They're beautifully made and better located than what the original Cat ones were.
That's one improvement from the original kit, because I believe it came with a piece of piano wire which you had to bend.
Yeah, you did have to do that, and that was challenging for most people.
Now they're pre-bent in the kits.
Having everything adjustable was crucial, and it gives the serious racer all the means of investigating the different setups for different sorts of tracks, and you need all that. And there's a lot of knowledge. Young people that race these end up with a deep knowledge in how cars work, and that knowledge is no different to a full-size motor car. I do meet people quite often that admit with fondness of learning an awful lot when they raced their model cars as young fellas. And some of these guys are very senior chaps in the motor industry now. And I'm glad to say many of them are my very good friends.
Yeah, yes, a lot of people have progressed through RC cars into careers in full-size motorsport.
Yeah.
The body show, I think the ProCat was one of the best looking buggies ever made.
It gives me fond memories of Chris Parsons.
Yes.
Who was a delightful young chap who had led a challenging life because he wasn't blessed with a good body like most of us. But my goodness me, he made up for his physical problems with his artistic talents, and he would spend hours getting a thing to look right from a piece of wood or whatever it was we started with. And Chris, it's a natural evolution of the original Cat. And the original Cat, I think, was also a good classic, but somehow it was a little bit angular, and Chris somehow made it more sophisticated and really extremely attractive. So 4 March Chris Parsons.
The wheel fitting was unique on these cars with the screw and then the drive dogs.
Yes.
How did you come up with that system?
Well, obviously we've got to have ball races, and you look through the ball race catalogues and they're all monsters, and then we found a ball race. I think it was probably designed for skateboards or something, but anyway, it was a very tiny ball race, and we needed a reliable splined connection, and I realised that I think it's an 8mm bore, 4 notches that exactly meshed together to give you the connection, and a screw through the middle to pull it tight. Looked a very promising setup, so I made up some bits and tested them and broke them, and I was startled how strong it all was, and it made a very simple, dead reliable device. But it needed 2 ball races to square it up. The plastic couldn't burst because it was trapped inside the bore, the steel bore of the ball race. And it took me, it took a little while to work it all out, but a few tests, and it made such a neat way of doing things. I was rather pleased.
Another new feature on the ProCat was the wing mount with the O-rings. The previous car had, had a wire, so that was a new innovation.
Well, O-rings are handy bits of kit, and they are very cheap. It's just a way of doing things, isn't it? Yeah, well, you can't knock it, can you?
It works very well to extend the life of your wing.
Yes, yes.
And O-rings were again used for the spur gear retainer.
Yeah, that was one of those moments. If you look at buying a steel circlip to do that job as a proper engineering job, the thing is so fiddly, and you've only got to drop it and you've lost it, and you can't find it, and you need a magnet to pick it up, but the O-ring, you could do it with your eyes shut. And I thought, it looks a good idea, and we'd tried it, and it worked beautifully. And again, simplicity is always the best answer.
Well, that, I think, completes a brief summary of the ProCat and the new ProCat Classic re-release, which is, I think, a stunning car. Brings back great memories of golden age of 1/10 buggy racing, and would make a fabulous collector's item, or also ideally an ideal car for the growing iconic racing scene, which is getting bigger and bigger all the time, and There's some fantastic events for racing vintage RC cars now.
I am actually amazed and delighted that this has happened. It's given me a new lease of life in a way, because it's wonderful to see these things coming back. And yeah, they were some good times. And I'm so pleased that modern young people can enjoy the same fun that we had all those years ago. Is my hair okay?
Hair's beautiful. It's normal.
Yes.
I'm only jealous, to be honest. My one's out of place.